I'm Commander Shepard, and the Unnamed Games Podcast is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. Shepard out.
Good evening, people of the internet. As you can see, I am not the usual host for the Unnamed Games Podcast. Craig is off. Apparently, he's getting a haircut, and that's going to take a very long time.
That's a very brave barber.
It's going to be very close to the mark. So yes, Craig is off getting a haircut. I have taken the hosting chair, and along with me, I'm just going to even them out. I've got Mr. Thunderlips McQueen. How are we?
I'm doing well, my friend. I am doing well.
Excellent. And I have Chris, also known as @RastaTweets, down on the bottom, just below me here. How
Look at me. Chris? Look at me, being all Chris. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I guess. Just being Chris. Yeah, Chris. It's me.
Chris. Woo! Excellent. So we've got a nice lineup. We've got about 4 or 5 articles to talk about, but I'm going to go with the usual lineup. I'm going to find out what you boys have been up to first. Going over to Thunderlips McQueen.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Phil. I'm glad you asked me. So, what have I been up to this week? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, okay, I've been a busy boy this week, which is unusual for me because generally when it comes to games, I like to stick to just one. Maybe I'll get sort of like sneaked away by one of you guys who are like, oh, I really want to play this multiplayer game, and I'll play too. But generally, I try and stick to that. I've been 3-4 games this week, and the first one is Control. So, and I've spoken about this the last couple of weeks. I finally finished the whole of Control. There are going to be no more DLCs for Control. It's been confirmed. They are done and dusted, and I have completed everything, not only on the Xbox, but all on the PC. Thank you, Epic Games Store, by the way, for the free. But they did get some money out of me. Yeah, exactly. They did get some money out of me because I went off, and of course, I then went and bought the DLCs, which was Foundation, which I finished, which I hadn't last week, and then I also did Alan Wake Experience DLC. The second one was, while it's really good, and there's a lot of sort of reminiscing because it's of course Alan Wake, and personally myself, don't know about you guys, but I played it when it came out. Absolutely one of my favorite games in my gaming history. Absolutely love it. So there's a lot of nostalgia. However, the Alan Wake experience is a lot shorter than Foundation, probably about 50%. It's about 3 hours, but it's still hugely enjoyable. A lot of content in there, a lot of fun missions. Really, really loved it. And that's it. I'm done with Control. I won't be going back. But
Alan, can I just make a confession at this moment in time? I feel I need to make a confession because it's a good time to do it. I have a gaming sin to confess.
You've never played it, have you?
I've never played Alan Wake.
Unbelievable.
It was at the time it came out.
Remove him from the podcast now.
No, Alan, there is a much more severe punishment. We get to beat him with a bag of oranges.
Okay, fair enough. I can deal. But it's simple because if you think back to the 360 era when Alan Wake came out, there was so much stuff that it just was one of these things that I was like, I'll get round to it, and I just ran out of time. Like in terms of it,
I mean, I'm not going to berate you. Yeah, I'm not going to berate you because I mean, there are plenty.
Isn't it on Game Pass?
It is on Game Pass.
So no excuse. I should play it now, really, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I don't know how well it's aged, but if the thing about Remedy games is quite often they're more about the story and the mechanics, not about the graphics. However, we'll get to that because the rest of us, me against you guys, we have a little bit of a disagreement, don't we? When it comes,
I was going to ask this.
I'm getting there.
When it comes to it,
when it comes to frames per second, I think you're a big bunch of girly boys, all you little. I can't play. It's too chuggy.
Alan, let's be fair. Even one of our listeners chimed in, and he has confirmed that Alan has 30 frames per second eyes.
Yeah, I know, that was a good comment. I can't remember who that was, but that was a good comment. But I loaded it up on the Xbox, and I'll tell you this now: it was unplayable. But I'm being a bit naughty because it wasn't unplayable because I found it chuggy. I did not find it chuggy. What is wrong with you people? It was perfectly smooth. It was perfectly playable. If there's any chugginess, you're imagining it. You're living in La La Land. But anyway, but I couldn't play it because it's weird. Because one of the things that is quite often mentioned is that the whole PC versus console aiming difference,
Yeah.
which is why people who play first-person shooters have an advantage over console players, because the accuracy of a mouse is so much more. And it's so true. I've only been playing on my new rig for 6-8 weeks, and I went back to control. I couldn't aim for toffee. I was all over the place. When it came to throwing stuff with the telekinesis, I was fine. But when I had to shoot at something, I was like, shooting. I just couldn't aim. It was ridiculous.
He's been indoctrinated.
I know.
He's now PC Master Race.
We've lost him. We've lost him.
Even more so than you boys. In your face. But anyway.
Ooh, my face, 70. Ooh, look at me.
But I do have to say, despite, I did not find it chuggy. I'm sorry. I want to report that I did, but I did not find it chuggy. You're just a bunch of whingers.
I'm confirming Alan's eyes are broken. That's as simple as that.
that's not in dispute. My eyes are most definitely broken. But one thing I did miss, and I have to be honest, is I really missed the ray tracing. Because I tell you what, it's funny how you get used to how pretty Control looks. Every surface in Control is shiny. I mean, everything, apart from maybe the ceilings. The floor is shiny. The walls are shiny. The windows are shiny. The tables are shiny. Everything is shiny, and everything reflects, and it is just a joy to behold. And then I put it on the Series X, and it doesn't have that ray tracing, and I was like, it just felt a little bit.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair to it. It does have the ray tracing if you're willing to pay for it.
Well, yes,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, which I didn't have. Yeah.
And on that note, don't pay for it, because what they did was incredibly crappy.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Don't give
hold
them
it
money.
off. We have a similar discussion a little bit further down the line. So I want you to save that pent up rage that's sitting, just above your stomach.
Don't worry.
Push it down.
I'm gonna come at you with it.
Okay, so moving on from Control. The next game that I put on, which I talked about, which I was going to look at this week, was Doom Eternal, and I put on the upgrade for that. I don't know how to say this. So the problem that I have is that when I first played Doom Eternal, and I don't remember, but it wasn't that long ago, was it? I mean, I'm a massive fan of the Doom series. I love them completely, unadulteratedly, even though I'm not very good at them. But I don't remember looking at that game when it first came out and thinking, oh, doesn't look very nice, does it? Because it's a beautiful game. It was beautiful when it came out originally. It runs smoother than Craig's forehead. It's so smooth, and
He's been to the barbers this week.
Well, but and so much is happening on screen. Bits flying out that you pick up, all the health stuff, and I can't look at it before it had the upgrade and say, you know what, it could really do with an upgrade, because it doesn't. It's brilliant. And then I put on the upgrade and I walked around the Doom Fortress looking for a shiny surface, and I couldn't find one because everything in the Doom Fortress is matte. Everything.
The doors at the back of the Doom Fortress.
One door. There's one door.
Did you make sure you turned the ray tracing on? Because
it was turned on. Don't you give me that?
No, because the only reason I ask is because I played Doom Eternal this week. And I'll just jump in, and I'd put the ray tracing on, and I hadn't put the ray tracing on. I was like, this seems very un-ray tracing-y. I'm not very impressed with this. And then went menu. Oh, I'll put the ray tracing on now, and look, it looks great now.
I mean, I'm jumping up and down in front of this door because I had to stand quite far back. So the minute you go to the door, they're automatic and they go up, which kind of defeats the object. So, and I'm trying to look at my reflection. I'm going, oh, it looks brilliant. Yeah, it's really, really good, but I can just barely see it, And it's not like I put on the upgrade and I suddenly went, you know what, that 120 frames a second, that's really improved my gameplay. I have to say it looks so much better, because it doesn't. It looked amazing before. How can
you have 120 frames TV, Alan?
Yeah.
No, so it's probably, I couldn't see that. It's probably 60.
I was going to say, I didn't.
But it's not that I'm dissing the way that it looks, because I think it is a gloriously beautiful game that runs amazing and is awesome before it had the upgrade, and I seen little to no difference after the upgrade. Maybe that's my TV, maybe that's my eyes, but it's still a gorgeously wonderful looking game that runs really smoothly and is fantastic gameplay. Nothing's changed.
They're just giving you options, Alan. It's options for the elitists. You paid out for your
I would
Series
say,
X.
it was like saying, here's a slice of cake. It's good, isn't it? Oh, Alan's alarming.
That's my life-giving meds. It's all right.
So it's like someone gives you a slice of cake. Now, in my case, that'd be bad, but in most people's cases, slice of cake is like go, cake, and then someone said, but here's some cake with some ice cream, and you go, cake and ice cream. Oh, right. And that's what the Doom Eternal patch is. It's the ice cream to go with your already tasty cake. It was perfectly brilliant as it was. And I wasn't going to tell you that Doom Eternal needed a patch because, as you said, it was almost flawless 60 FPS. It looked great. It played fantastic. There was no need for it. And then they give you this patch. And it's like, oh, but it's doing all that again. We've upped the resolution and we've given you some more shiny. I mean, I'm in. It's brilliant.
It's probably got more to do with my hardware than anything else. It's probably got more to do with my TV's got some age to it and stuff like that. But it's not like I'm disappointed. It's not like I'm like, because as I said, it's awesome. It's freaking awesome. And I put it on, and I can't remember what's the name of the bad guy. He's kind of like a mini boss halfway through with like the big axe. I can't remember what he's called. I got stuck on him the first time when I was playing through it, and I was just like, I cannot beat this guy. And I tried time and time again, dozens of times, and I couldn't beat him. And eventually I gave up and went and did something else. I turned it on after the upgrade. Second attempt, I beat the motherfucker. So I was kind of like, I only needed 6 months of rest and I could kick his ass.
Mate, I love when that happens. You get stuck on something and you go away and go, do you know what? I'll get one more go, and you do it, and it's the best feeling. Like, I've had two of those that I remember is when I beat Ram on Gears of War 1 the first time I played it, because that was such a hard boss fight. Even Epic were like, yeah, we made that a little too tricky, really. And I remember being so happy to beat him. It took me as much time to beat Ram in Gears 1 as it did to beat the rest of the game. It was ridiculous. And then when I used to play Guitar Hero a lot, I got quite good in that, and I beat Freebird on Expert on Guitar Hero 2. I was like, that was a moment of after months and months and months of practice to be able to like nail that. I was jumping around the room like,
they say gaming's for lazy people, but they don't know the dedication and the hard work we put in. They just don't know the struggle. They don't know the struggle, man. Anyway, so that's two games down. Third game, completed Halo Reach. So me and the boy, my son Alex, we had a conversation recently because we actually jumped on some Half-Life multiplayer out of the Master Chief Collection after seeing Halo Infinite sort of trailer at E3. To be honest, I was like, oh my god, I had that feeling of excitement at watching the Halo multiplayer again, and I haven't had that for a good 2 or 3 games. I was like, I want to play this, but I also want to have some practice and get some practice in. And we played some multiplayer. I was bad. Really, really bad. And I think at the point, I still hadn't got used to the mouse sort of like keyboard combo. So we sort of talked amongst ourselves, and we decided we were going to play through all the campaigns. And this week, we start off on Monday. And I have to say, Halo Reach is still a very pretty game. And I have to say, the gameplay in that game, it's definitely up there with my favourites. It could be my second favourite.
It did receive a 4K update, and they tweaked all of the shooting controls as well. They brought across the more modern shooting controls.
It just everything feels solid. The weapons are solid. It's a lot better than 5, I'll tell you that. But it definitely feels like it's up there with, like, I think Halo 3 is still my favourite, and I'd put Halo Reach just below that because we had so much fun playing through the campaign. We literally did 3/4 of it on the Monday, and then we finished it off. And all credit to is it 343 did
Bungie did that one. That was Bungie.
That was Bungie's last one. Yeah. Sorry.
All credit to the guys that wrote the story. It must be so difficult to write a story when the story already says that what you're playing, you're going to lose. And to make you still feel invested and still want to play. That end mission where you're basically fighting until you die is just such a stroke of genius. It's just like you're stuck there. You're on Reach. We already know Reach is going to get glassed. It's talked about repeatedly as the planet that got glassed by the Covenant. So you know you're going to lose, and you go all the way through with loss after loss after loss, and you get to the end, and you're in this final mission. You've just sent Cortana off with like keys on the Pillar of Autumn, and you feel like
did you see the Chief? Little Easter egg, you can see the Chief.
I didn't see
him. You have to pan when you're in the bird. You have to look right, and he's in his little tank in there.
Pelican. I didn't see that. But and also, then you're basically left on the planet, and you basically fight until you die. Stroke of genius. We just loved it. I'm very much looking forward to jumping into Combat Evolved straight away next week. That's going to be our next one, because we've never played that together. I started playing Halo with him when he was, must have been 9, 10, 11. I don't remember the exact year. And that's one of the stories I think I might have told before, where I used to repeatedly kick his ass, because that's a valuable life lesson. Just because somebody is always going to beat you, and the only way you're going to beat them is by practicing and getting better. And he did. He practiced. He got better. One day we were playing Halo 3, and he absolutely kicked my ass, and I never played with him ever again. So that's an important lesson.
Lesson number 2. When that happens, your dad will never play Halo with you again.
Yeah. From father to son. But it's so lovely to be going down that memory lane and playing it with him. And hopefully, when we'll finish the whole campaign.
Reach is such a phenomenal game.
It was a great game.
Such a great game.
And I already said this to Alex. I said, just be aware that Halo 1 has its limitations, because it has age to it. The level design is not great. The graphics, although updated, and you backtrack a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I think the biggest, that's the biggest issue with it. It's probably that was probably, I would imagine, a lot of that was to do with storage solutions and space for the game. But
and space.
And credit where credit's due, though. I still think Combat Evolve holds up surprisingly well. I mean, don't get me wrong, like you say, there's a lot of age to it. But I'm always really surprised whenever I fire up Combat Evolve that it doesn't just play awfully. It just plays like an older game. Some games you play and you're like, oh god, why did I ever enjoy this? This is bad.
While you're sat there pressing the button going, no textures. No textures. No textures. Oh, we've gone to a new area. No textures. Genius. Love it. Great fun, and just finished that in a week, so that's fantastic. Absolutely love that. And then finally, the final game I played this week, so I haven't really watched anything, it's mostly been games this week, has been Black Mesa. And Black Mesa is one of those games that is the reason why I've wanted a PC rig for so long. One of the seminal games in my early gaming life was Half-Life. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people always go on about Half-Life 2. But for me, it was Half-Life. Half-Life 2 is a great game, but it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Half-Life. And Half-Life set the bar for games and storytelling and everything when it first came out. It's a seminal game, in my opinion. It's a genre-changing game, in my opinion. And the fact that Valve were never going to remake it. They're never going to make another one, they said, but they did make Alex for the VR. But they're not going to make another Half-Life game, which is so sad. And these guys called the Crowbar Collective, which was a group of, I think it was one guy and another couple of guys, got together and decided they were going to remake Half-Life. And this was like 12 years ago. This was when Half-Life 2...
Yeah, like 2008 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of time. And what's amazing about this story is the fact that Valve actually, when they approached Valve and said, look, we want to do this and we want to remake it, Valve went, all right then, yeah, sure, okay. And then went, oh, okay, so you're going to say we can completely remake Half-Life and actually change anything we need to change to make it better and do this and that? Yeah, that's fine, off you go. And then we're gonna sell it on Steam, which is the platform you own. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, off you go. Good luck. And that's basically what happened. It would never happen with any other developer ever. And Valve just went, yeah, all right then, off you go. And it's just like, this thing I've been listening to it go through the mill. And finally, last year, I think it was April, May, somewhere around that. Last year, it was finally released as a finished product. And while it has been a work of, say, 8 to 10 years, you can tell that it's not exactly next generation graphics. But that doesn't matter, because for me, it still looks incredibly pretty. You go to lots of areas and you're just like, wow, that's the water, shadow effects, everything is there. To me, it looks great. But what is more important is the quality of life changes they've made to the game. Now, I haven't finished yet. I'm actually at Zen. Now, if I was playing the original Half-Life, when you get to Zen, you're pretty much at the end.
Stop.
It's like jump across a couple of floating islands, shoot at something for a couple of minutes, and it's game over and you're in a tram, yeah? So that's it. That's game over. But one of the things that they've done is they've completely remade Zen from the ground up. It looks amazing. And it is not just a platform jump from thing to thing with very low textures. It's just this completely realized world with actually, I believe there's actually one or maybe even two bosses in it. I think I read somewhere. And it is like 3 whole levels long. It is epic. So I'm nowhere near the end. And I have to say, the feeling I've had through this game, I'm not going to lie, there have been a couple of occasions, because it is an older game, and I labelled this against Mass Effect, where I've literally been walking around going, what the hell am I supposed to do next? Because it doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't even tell you what your mission is. If you forget what your mission is halfway through your mission, nobody tells you. You're in like the Lambda reactor, and nothing tells you that you have to go and turn on pumps 1 and 2, other than some security guard you met 10 minutes ago who went, "Oh, you'll need to turn on the reactor, mate." Yeah, and that's it. There's no like mission like bar that you go to that tells you turn on reactor A, but no, it's not there. If you don't remember what you're doing, you just have to wander around until you find what it is you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes you can end up wandering around in there. I've spent at least twice wandering around going, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm supposed to be going. I'm completely lost. But everything, the quality of life changes. For example, the interaction with the NPCs. You can actually get the Barneys to follow you now. They actually chase you. They actually follow you around and help you. Don't get me wrong. The minute you meet anything, they're pretty much automatically dead. But it does give you that feeling of interactivity with them, and that they actually, right, okay, I'll follow you. Off we're going to go. Oh, God, they're dead. Oh, well, never mind. Yeah, but it's great. I have had such a blast, and at surface tensions, if you have any memory of the game, is both infuriating and exhilarating all at the same time. And that's when you finally get to the surface. Some of the battle scenes against the guys coming through the portals, and then you have the soldiers and the scenes, and there's ships flying out, planes flying overhead, and alien craft, and it's just epic. Absolutely epic. I think if anybody plays Black Mesa and you haven't played Half-Life, you really, really need to. These guys have done an amazing job. And it's like, for me, it's like walking down memory lane, but where things actually work. Because if I did play Half-Life, I'd probably be like, oh my God, oh no, that's terrible. That doesn't work. Oh no. It's a wonderful experience. And I cannot give the Crowbar Collective enough credit. It's awesome. And it's not just that they've just gone and remade it and added new textures. They've changed story where it's relevant. They've changed interactivity where it's relevant. They've even changed level design where it's relevant to make it more modern. So it feels like a modern experience rather than an old 23-year-old experience, which it is. So you're not going to be buying a game that feels like it was made in 1998. You're buying a game, despite my other thing about getting lost and not being told what you're supposed to be doing, you feel like gameplay-wise, you're playing a game that is much more modern. I'm having a massive experience, and I'll tell you next week how I finished it.
Oh man, I know we had a quick chat before we came on, and I'm proper nostalgic for Half-Life now. I genuinely want to play some Half-Life. I loved Half-Life back in the day, so I'm just going to have a quick sneak for Black Mesa, I think, because that's
should do.
Sounds like a solid recommendation there. Yeah, let's move on for Chris. We've done quite a lot of time, so I'm gonna.
I'm quite quick, mate. It's not a huge amount.
Go for it, man.
So,
what have you been up to?
So mainly I've been printing out the Ara here on my 3D printer. So that just taking a lot of my time. I'll be working on her paintwork wise over the next few weeks, I'd imagine, maybe longer. So
watch this space for updates.
Watch this space. Yeah, at some point she'll be painted. And that sort of ties onto the only real gaming I've been doing. I finished the Mass Effect trilogy on the legendary side of things. It's
without spoilers. How is it? Did you enjoy 3?
It's Mass Effect, man. If you've, it's very hard to discuss Mass Effect 3 without talking about the spoilers. But I will say this about Mass Effect 3, and I've always said this: is the ending is still controversial. The ending will always be something which will split people. Going to it this time, I'm certainly more okay with it now than I was 10 years ago, or whenever it was. I can't remember. And I have to say that basically, I'll stand by it until the last mission. That game is basically perfect. Like, it doesn't put a thing wrong with like the way the characters are developed and the conversations you have and the feelings involved, and
the combat feels great.
Combat is day and night. Even over Mass Effect 2, combat is so much better. I mean, the game is so good, and I've fallen back in love with Mass Effect again, no question. I mean, I never really fell out of love with it, but like replaying it again it's brought back all those reasons why I loved it. A lot like Alan was saying about Black Mesa. I wish they'd done more with it. I stand by this, especially if you now were to go play Andromeda. Like, Andromeda was a solid performing in terms of mechanics, but it was awful in terms of story. The story and characters were not that awful's not fair to it. It was just okay. And when you've come off the back of 3 games with a story as strong as the Mass Effect trilogy, the Shepherd trilogy, let's call it, and you go to Andromeda and its story is just okay. Okay just isn't anywhere. I see it, Alan. Very good, sir. Yeah, so the story just it just feels disappointing because it is compared to the other 3. But it's a solid game. It plays brilliantly. The combat in Mass Effect Andromeda is amazing. But it is definitely, it's not a game you'd want to spend as long a time with as the original trilogy, because the characters are what make Mass Effect so great and make any RPG great, realistically, if you think about it. When you talk about RPGs, you talk about the characters you interact with and the story that tells. And if the characters are weak, that's the thing. And I'd forgotten, like in Mass Effect 2 and 3 in particular, like where the meat of the character development really comes in. Like how much some of those choices sting, like when they come back to roost, or the ones you have to make that which are just difficult. And there's no definite spoilers, but you lose people along the way in Mass Effect. You will, it's inevitable. And there are a couple which, oh my god, there's one in particular every time. Just I can't deal with it. It's so heartbreaking. And I was just like flicking through YouTube, and I found a streamer who was playing it for the first time. She'd never played the games before, and I was like, oh, and the video I found happened to be the episode where she was talking about that, and I was like, I kind of just want to see how she reacts to it. And I got to that point, and I don't think I've ever seen a video game break someone in quite the same way that this moment in Mass Effect 3 did. And I was just like, yeah, I've been there. In fact, I was probably worse than she was. She held it together better than I did the first time that particular moment happened to me. All I remember is the first time it happened to me, like I was a complete blubbering mess. I mean, an absolute state. And to be clear, I don't cry at things very easily. I'm not like being all manly. It just doesn't happen. I'm not that guy. I just don't. There's only a few things that ever made me cry. Mass Effect had me in just like that particular moment. I was like blubbering my eyes out. And but like the end of it, I always find they get so bittersweet at the end of Mass Effect 3 because it's ending. And I love Mass Effect 3 so much that I don't want it to end, but it ends. I will say this though, going back, one thing I'd forgotten how absolutely top drawer brilliant it was the Citadel DLC. The Citadel DLC was released way after the Mass Effect 3 had been released. It was the last piece of DLC they released for the Shepherd trilogy. And it was a proper piece of fan service. There are so many fantastic in-jokes, so many great pieces of dialogue. The voice cast are obviously having an absolute blast. The party that takes place at the end of it, I won't sort of spoil anything, but like that is, there's even a really emotional, moment where you can, some of your fallen colleagues get like a tribute service, and it's just like it proper hits you in the feels, but at the same time make you feel so great about it. And it's a wonderful piece of DLC, and I absolutely love it. And I was really impressed with the Omega DLC as well. I remember like kind of being a bit meh at the time, but it was wicked. That was great DLC. So absolutely, love that things, and that's really all the gaming I've been doing. I'm having a bit of a post Mass Effect chill. I said I did kind of start Renegade Ship, but I'll get into that later. And then the only other thing I've done is watch a couple of movies, and one of them I did was I got round to watching Bird Box on the Netflix with Sandra Bullock, which I hadn't seen, which came out probably about 18 months, 2 years ago. Have you seen it, Alan?
Yeah, I've seen it. I enjoyed it.
It's a good film.
It's not breaking any boundaries, but what they do pretty well.
Although I got to the end of it and it ended, and I was like, I had this really weird feeling. I was like, that's both simultaneously one of the most disappointing endings to a film I've seen in ages, but equally it ends exactly where it should, and it's completely satisfying in terms of wrapping up the story. But I just felt it was, it needed something more. Do you know what I mean? It was like
it has issues. It's kind of a diluted genre these days, isn't it? That type of film. So it kind of feels like they need to do something different.
And I have to say,
but Sandra Bullock turns in it. I think she's
great.
A good,
she's really good,
really great in it. And I think overall, I agree with you. I think you get to the ending and you kind of feel a little bit unsatisfied. But
her character arc's great, but the ending for the whole universe feels kind of very And I like the little twist at the end as well. That was cool. But what I was thinking the whole way through it was like, in almost every instance, whilst it's not the same movie, I just kept thinking, A Quiet Place did this better. A Quiet Place is a better version of this movie with a slightly different take. And I think that was kind of what I kept, and it probably spoiled it a bit for me, was the fact that I've seen A Quiet Place and it's such a masterful piece of execution, that movie, that I was like, it just isn't quite up to that standard. It's a very good film, but A Quiet Place exists, and I think you're better off if you want a monster movie in an apocalyptic world, blah blah blah. A Quiet Place is a better take on it, in my opinion. Although I did like some of the ideas with like the whole, like, obviously it's whatever you see the monster, then you go kill yourself, which is revealed. It's not a big spoiler. That's like the basic plot line. I loved the point where they brought the psychopaths in, and the psychopaths basically sided with the monsters instead of going mad. They were like. Became like heralds for them almost. I thought that was very clever, so I like that. But and there were some good ideas in it, and I will agree. I thought Sandra Bullock was the highlight of the movie, especially at the end, like where the ending happens and she kind of has her emotional closure. I thought that was she played that scene fantastically.
I really enjoyed the kickoff. I enjoyed when she's driving in the car with her sister, and then everything goes to crap. I thought that was done really well and very believable. It's like The Quiet Place starts, everything's already happened. And I do agree it is a slightly better movie in a lot of ways, but that opening sort of like part of the movie where they end up in the house, I thought that was done fantastic, when nobody knows really what's going on. And I was very, very involved.
In that sequence, the way that people just start doing stuff, like the way her sister just decides to go. But what got me was the woman, John Malkovich's wife, character. What she does was just unreal. Like the way she just, I was like, whoa, it was bizarre, brilliant to watch though. I wouldn't say, I'm not going to say, oh God, you've got to see it, but I wouldn't say, you've got the 2 hours. It's definitely worth a watch. It's not a bad film at all. I know I sound a bit down on it, but definitely worth a watch, 100%. So and that's pretty much what I've been doing. I've just watched some repeats of stuff, and I did play a bit of Doom Eternal, like Alan, like we said earlier. And I agree with Alan. It's a beautiful game. Play it. If you haven't played Doom Eternal and you like FPSs, if you like FPSs, you haven't played Doom Eternal, you're wrong.
It's the daddy now.
That is just the best.
I'm just always sad that my reactions aren't what they used to be. I used to think I was good at something like Doom. Now I'm just struggling to make it through to the end of the level.
It's fine when it was only left and right in a corridor.
I was good at games back in the day, like my reactions. I remember I've talked about this before. The Halo days, back in the OG Xbox days, I was a good Halo player. I would never class myself as world class or anything, but I could hold my own with the best of them. And now I'm just like, oh, I'm dead again. I'm dead again. I've got no skills. I mean, what happened to my hands?
Old mate, you got old is what happened.
It's true. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that, Chris. Thank you for that, Thunder Lips. For my part, I've just done a lot of TV watching, so I've had another busy week for work. I did finally finish the Sarah Connor Chronicles. For Mr. Craig, don't watch it. It ends on an absolute humdinger of a cliffhanger at the end of season 2. So if you need closure, you're never going to get it.
I have heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard there's some superb fan-written like post stories which tie up a lot of the loose ends really well. I don't know how true that is, but I have heard that on the.
I did a bit of Google searching of like potential plots for season 3 and read through, and it felt like they were going to close some bits up. But it's an absolute humdinger. So,
I've never watched it, but I know that like among fans, it is one of those like, how dare you cancel it there?
I absolutely hate that. I mean, I had the same thing with Deadwood, although thankfully they've actually made a movie since then.
That's what it needs.
Kind of clear all that up.
It needs a movie. It needs a Serenity.
Yeah.
It's just ready to close.
The only series I've ever seen that turned over on was a series called Jericho. Have you ever seen Jericho?
Yes, I watched that years ago. That was post-apocalyptic, wasn't it?
Yeah, the bombs go off, and like it's a small isolated town where they're like, what's happened? They've lost, America kind of falls in on itself. But anyway, but they cancelled it at the end of season 1, and that season ends on a huge cliffhanger. And like you're like, how can you cancel it here? And it had been doing quite well, so it's this bizarre thing where they cancelled it. No one will quite figure it out. But they cancelled it, and the fans went nuts and managed to get them to commission a half a series to finish it up, basically. So 12 episodes. And it's like, I watched it. It's a brilliant show. Recommend it to anyone. I think it's on Netflix. I could be wrong, but Jericho, definitely worth a watch. But be prepared, because you'll get really into the characters. At the end of season 1, season 2 comes along, and it doesn't have quite the same zing to it, because they know that it's going at that point. And it's still definitely worth a watch, though.
And the only other thing I've played is I played some more Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which looks uber pretty on the PS5. So I've just been working my way through that. I played the original, really enjoyed it, moved into the second one. But, we're an Xbox podcast, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But lo and behold...
We're a gaming podcast, mate. You can talk about Ratchet & Clank if you want to.
All I'm going to say is Insomniac, they know what they're doing. That is a great quality studio. And this game does not disappoint. If you liked Ratchet & Clank, you will love the new one.
Do you know what makes me sad when you said Insomniac then? Is Sunset Overdrive.
Yep. I really enjoyed that game. I loved the aesthetic. It was mental on every level. I mean, we've made a game that's basically skateboarding, but it's not, because you're just grinding across anything in the world. And your objective is just to slide to different places and shoot stuff and blow stuff up.
The exploding teddy bear gun was one of the greatest ideas ever, fire exploding teddy bears games. But yeah, anyway, I took your riff, but I just want to say Insomniac, man, that was when they got bought by Sony, that was the one thing I went, well, we're not seeing that, which was so sad.
Yeah. My heart broke a little bit, but I can say in Ratchet & Clank, there is a sheep gun where you shoot something, it turns into a sheep, and then if you shoot another thing that's a sheep, it just blows up. Hilarious. Sheepinator it's called.
That's called physics.
Yeah.
Sheepinator.
Oh yeah,
it's called a sheepinator.
Yeah, if you shoot a sheep at a sheep, it explodes. Everyone knows
that's it.
Right?
Oh no, you shoot somebody
in the same space at the same time. Everybody knows that. That's basic physics. You shoot a sheep at a sheep, time sucks in on itself, explosion.
Well, no, you shoot somebody and they turn to a sheep, and then you shoot somebody else and they turn to a sheep, and if they get too close, they explode. They
exactly.
Don't merge.
Two sheep can't occupy the same space time.
Let's not debate the physics of the sheepinator, but lo and behold, the sheepinator. Brilliant. Now, we're going to move on to the news. We have some news. This is the news. This is the news. Alan didn't like he was going to do it. So, the first article, I am going to hand over to Mr. Thunderlips McQueen.
Because I haven't spoken enough this podcast already, taking the lion's share of what I did this week. But my week was just interesting. What can I do? So it's funny you should ask that, Phil. It's very funny that you should ask, because actually I was looking at the Steam Summer Sale again this week, and I picked something up, and that was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Full Edition. Yeah, which was a ridiculously good value at $6.99, which includes the base game and 2 expansions. And it's another game that I've wanted to play on the PC for years, ever since it came out. And they were showing us pictures of what it looked like on a high-end PC. And we were going, oh my God, a game can't look that good. And it actually does. And you can see on the screen here, the clarity's not too good, but it just looks awesome. Beautiful rendering. I've finished the main story, but I've never completed the 2 expansions, Hearthstone and Blood and Wine. So after I finish Black Mesa, that's my next project on the PC. That's the next one.
Heart of Stone. It's a good 10 hours. It's not bad, but Blood and Wine, it's like 30 hours, that DLC. It's like a whole game in itself. And you've just picked it up for effectively £2
exactly
versus the rest of it.
Mental.
And the level design, like the original Witcher, it's quite nice, but it's still quite flat a lot of the game. There's not that much variation in the type of terrain. But when you go to the Blood and Wine, they've just gone, it's mental. There's knights on horses different jousting, and it's giants everywhere, and there's like 40. It's amazing the difference they made. I was just like, is this even the same game?
But the reason I mention The Witcher is because there's actually the Witcher 3 Next Gen update, which was actually, the news was actually sent out last year. So it's not new news. But apparently last week, was it last week? They had WitcherCon It was this week, wasn't it? Yeah, WitcherCon, which apparently is a convention for all things Witcher. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Witcher. I love the card game. I love the games. I love the TV series. But I'm thinking a convention for like one IP seems a bit extreme. But anyway, it was announced by CD Projekt Red and Netflix that The Witcher 3 next gen update is going to have some extra DLC, which is going to be inspired by the Netflix show, which is nice. I'm doubtful that we'll hear any Henry Cavill. I think I don't know the name of the actual voice actor, but he actually did the initial announcement for WitcherCon, and he's got such a distinctive voice. And Henry Cavill based his voice clearly on that guy, because the deep gravelly voice, and it's The Witcher. It's what you expect to hear from him. And apparently you might be able to wear the armor from the TV shop and the show and other props. I don't think there's anything really bigger than that actually being listed, but any additional content, which is something that CDPR are known for doing, especially with The Witcher. You've got 2 massive expansions, but they've been putting out extra DLC, 16, 18 of them, I think, since it came out, all for free, and some new extra freebies when the next gen upgrade drops is fantastic. For myself personally, I probably won't be too worried about jumping on the Xbox Series X and playing it, because I'll have played it all through again on the PC, and it'll all be ramped up graphically as much as I possibly can do, but I'll have to put up with the slightly slower loading times. But yeah, that's some interesting news.
It's tough news, that one. Tough news.
I know. Alan's loading times aren't great. Oh no, what a disaster.
Well, mate, I've only got one life to live, and the time might be done how long you've got.
Alan, 30 frames per second.
Yeah, I love the fact that Alan, the man who can't just tell the difference between 30 frames and 60 frames, is moaning about loading times.
I'm just saying that it was really noticeable when I put like something like Control. I've been playing that, and then I went onto the PC, and I was kind of like, and load. It's just a quality of life thing that you get so used to, like quick resume and stuff like that. That you just. And it's something that I'll probably tolerate and put up with on The Witcher, of course, on the PC. But when the next gen upgrade comes on, you'll move around the map and you'll just go boop. But also, additionally, aside from the tasty new bits of DLC coming there, they also announced the scheduled release for the Witcher Netflix season 2. And that is scheduled for December the 17th. And I know, Phil, you weren't the biggest fan, but I know
the Phil's an idiot.
No, oi. I enjoyed the Witcher series because it's The Witcher and I love The Witcher. I didn't like the way it was told, but that didn't mean I didn't enjoy it. No, because it was poorly indicated.
I would like to refer to my original point.
And this is the same man that said, I really like Tenet, but I want to watch it again because I didn't understand some of the key points. Yeah,
no, I said watch it again. It makes more sense the second time round.
You watch it backwards. You have to watch it backwards, Tenet, for it to make sense. Yeah, no, it's
it does that
nonsense.
Already anyway.
It's complete nonsense. But yeah, so that's really great. I love the series, and I say I know the books, and the series was based off a series of short stories, which is the way that it is. It has an intertwining story with Ciri that kind of jumps backwards and forwards. And if you're paying attention, you can tell where you are. There are little nods that saying, actually, we're in the past here, and now we're in the future. Mm-hmm. So you kind of just have to be observant. Clearly, Phil missed those.
For anyone who wants to watch it and doesn't want to struggle like I did, just look at the state of the city as to whether it's...
The indication is city not destroyed and everybody's dead. Oh, now they're all alive again. Have we gone back in time?
That's the key indicator, as apparently, unlike every other TV show, which puts past and a year and then future and a year, they just don't. They just let you figure it out.
It's good. I'm not going to.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, we've already had this conversation with Phil, and it's you'll end up just banging your head against the wall.
Against the wall. It won't be my head.
Circling the drain is the term we're looking for. So.
But I am so excited for this. December the 17th. Absolutely love it. And this is one of those series I'll probably end up binge watching over a weekend. Just watch the whole blooming lot in 1 or 2 days. Absolutely love it. I love Henry. I love Henry Cavill. I thought when he first got announced as Geralt, I was like, really? Mr. Superman with his pecs hanging out. I really don't. This twice I've been talking about pecs. I've got to get a bit obsessed with men's pecs. But anyway,
to be fair, Henry Cavill's pecs. You have an excuse for being obsessed.
They're like sideboards, aren't they? I mean, let's be serious. But I absolutely love him in the role, and I cannot wait to see what they did. I actually watched the trailer tonight, and I was kind of I actually looked at the character, the actress that plays Siri, and I was like, have they changed the actress? Because she's grown up a lot. She looked almost kind of waif-like in the first series, and I always thought they'd actually changed her, and then Ali looked online and said, no, actually, it's still the same actress. She looks so different, but that kind of shows some time has passed. Super looking forward to that. And very quickly, finally, there's also an animated prequel called, what is it called? Something
Nightmare
of the
Wolf, isn't it?
Nightmare of the Wolf. I've lost it on my little list here. Yeah, I didn't actually put it on there. That was very silly of me. It's called The Nightmare of the Wolf, and that's coming on August the 23rd. It's an animated prequel. It's 1 hour, 22 minutes long. I looked on IMDb, and I couldn't see any characters listed other than Vesemir. So that leads me to believe that it's a story focused on Vesemir. Yeah. So
really?
Yeah, my Sherlock Holmes skills are second to none. But and the blurb was the world of The Witcher expands in this 2D anime film that explores a powerful new threat facing the continent. And the thing that says to me more than anything else is that Netflix are invested in this IP, and they're not just like throwing out a couple of series of Witcher and they're off on their way. They're willing to spend some time and some money here. That makes me quite excited because I love the IP and I love the franchise.
I really hope. I'm hoping Netflix have really doubled down since the first season, because the only thing I would say about the first season, which I loved it, I thought it was brilliant, is that you could tell there were some points where budget restraints hurt them.
The dragon.
I'm looking at you, dragons. Yeah, the opening sequence in the swamp of the whole season, the CG is
wow. Yeah,
and then like the dragon comes along, and you're just like, ooh, and it wasn't necessarily a badly designed dragon; it was a badly executed dragon, and that sounds horrible to the guys who were responsible for it. But more than likely, that was just a case.
They probably didn't have enough time or enough money.
Enough time, enough resources. Yeah,
and it was such a shame because it was that episode. The episode wasn't spoiled by the CG, but that episode would have been so much better over if you'd have had, and I think it was hurt. Because Game of Thrones was doing dragons at the time, wasn't it? And let's face it, Game of Thrones dragons, I will say this, not being a Game of Thrones fan, but the dragons looked...
I think it's also more noticeable because the general quality and the caliber of the series was so high.
Yes.
I think in general, everything was so good, spot on, that when something wasn't quite right, you kind of jumped on that straight away. Definitely. And that was quite in your face because it was a big... You looked at the dragon, you were kind of like, that's not done very well. The shadowing's wrong. It doesn't really fit into its environment. It's somebody's rushed that. But as you say, I'm not blaming anybody in particular. These guys quite often have no money and no time. But overall, still super excited for Series 2.
100%. Yeah, really, really pumped for that.
Yeah.
Cool. On to the next exciting news article. And I'm going to take this one because it's very exciting. So
I'm sorry,
Ubisoft.
On to the next exciting news article. Everybody kill yourself.
Did Phil just become from the young ones?
I told you it's been a long day. Stop poking me. Let's talk about Ubisoft's next clanger that they've dropped instead, shall we? Let's talk about that. Because they haven't done that enough as it is. So, we all loved Assassin's Creed Unity. Did we? That was an old game. That was broken. We loved Assassin's Creed, just in general. We loved the new one, Ragnarok. We loved the one previous to that, Odyssey. They were both brilliant games. They spent a long time in development, very popular. Ubisoft have taken notice and thought, we need to keep making more Assassin's Creed games.
As they made money from this project.
So what they thought, though, is, we don't keep making, these guys make one, and then we move it over to them, and it keeps going back and forth. So they have now formed a joint front on Assassin's Creed. They have merged the Ubisoft Quebec Assassin's Creed team and the Ubisoft Montreal Assassin's Creed team to create Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is very exciting. So it's going to be headed up by, and if I ruin the pronunciation here, Marc Alexis Cote, who apparently was one of the original founders of the Quebec studio. He's going to be the executive producer overall. He's going to be supported by a producer, Julien Lefarare.
Your French is coming on leaps and bounds, mate.
Oh,
really,
mate, yeah.
I tell you, you're so welcome across the pond. You really are.
À gauche. He's from the Montreal studio. And then they're going to have creative leads from both Jonathan Dumont and Clint Hocking. Clint Hocking is the one that really caught my eye, actually, because he was a level designer on the original Splinter Cell, which leads me on to another miserable point. They're probably still not going to make another Splinter Cell, since anyone who knew what they were doing has been pushed into Assassin's Creed.
I was just waiting for somebody during a Ubisoft news article to go, still haven't made Splinter Cell, you know.
I'm also curious to know, when they merged those two studios, how many people actually lost their jobs. Because I guarantee you they didn't merge them all and then went, okay, that's great.
They haven't said anything about redundancies, to be fair.
No.
Let's be fair. They had a few issues in the past
people
that
might
were
have
investigated, and I suspect many people were encouraged to leave due to their perceptions and perhaps their ability to work in teams. So maybe the teams were looking a little light. They've pushed them together. No, it's not going to be that. It's going to be, they've realized Assassin's Creed makes them loads of money. They've realized Division makes them loads of money. And they thought, how do we make Assassin's Creed into a games as a service? Now, to be perfectly honest, this is still possibly rumored. Like, there's no confirmation this will be a games as a service, this next Assassin's Creed.
Ubisoft would never do this. This is totally out of character for them. Oh, no. I couldn't imagine it.
Breakpoint. Yeah. So, they haven't confirmed it's a games for a service, but that's generally the way it's looking like it's going. As far as we know at the moment, they've merged the two studios together. They're taking talent from both of the teams, smushing them together with the idea that they're going to make the best Assassin's Creed ever. And being as it's called Infinity, much like Halo Infinite, this might be the last Assassin's Creed we see for a while. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Excited?
It's stupid, dumb, and Ubisoft need to stop doing stupid and dumb things and just make good games again, please. Thank you very much. Bye.
Ubisoft is a perfect example of a company that's forgotten that it has customers it has to keep happy and is far more interested in making a profit. And obviously every company wants to make a profit. They're not making stuff to just make the world happy. But Ubisoft, where the scales have dropped, they're more interested in making the biggest amount of profit possible whilst convoluting the entire games industry by making the same old hacked up crap and putting it all into the same generic shaped envelope and trying to sell it as something different.
Yeah, 100%.
I am out. That is it. Assassin's Creed, I've always stood up against when people have gone, Assassin's Creed, it's too bloated. And I'm like, look, the campaign's 53 hours long. People always complain that campaigns aren't long enough. You like the campaign, you should be happy with that. Oh, but there's more than 120 hours of just going from A to B. Well, don't fucking do it then. Excuse my language.
Well, Alan swore,
Two F-bombs this week.
But don't do it. Why complain that there's 120 hours of side missions that you don't enjoy? You don't have to do it. The whole clue's in the name, side missions. But however, if Ubisoft are going to do this and they're going to just put it into the same shape as The Division, which, as I've already said to you guys, I am tired of, this whole games as a service thing, then I am out. I don't want any more. I don't want any more Assassin's Creed games. I'm done. Thank you very much, Ubisoft. You won't get my custom.
I'm just going to roll it back as thanks to Phil said earlier, where they went, Assassin's Creed makes us loads of money. The Division makes us loads of money. The Division doesn't make Ubisoft loads of money. The Division was a massive, colossal failure for them in terms of what they expected it to do. And the live service part of the Division has been a big failure for them as well. I mean, it's not a failure of a game. We know I love the Division and I want to see more Divisions. But what it feels like to me is that they haven't had enough money out of their games as a service. So they were like, well, Assassin's Creed makes boatloads of money and it's got a built-in mega fan base. Let's just convert that to games as a service. We're guaranteed to make bank money. And I think they're going to pay the price for this because I think they're going to realize that the reason that Assassin's Creed makes boatloads of money when they release an Assassin's Creed is because it's exactly not that thing. It is a contained single-player game experience that you buy. You have 50 hours with, as Alan was saying, and you go, 120 hours. However many hours it is, it's that many hours. You play at your own pace. You do what you want. It's not constantly fighting to keep up. They might drop a DLC and you can play it, but, it's not this thing of like, oh, my God, I've got to play. I've been fortunate with The Division, even though being a Division fan and liking it. I've been able to take months off a Division because, again, talking about the live service bit failing, they didn't have any content planned for this second year, and they suddenly decided we're going to add some in late in the year. It's that means I've been able to have time off and not fall behind. I'll be able to jump straight back in when they launch new content. But look at Destiny. Destiny is doing games as a service right. If you have 6 months off of Destiny and you go back in, you'll just be standing going, what the hell's going on? Where am I doing? What's going on? What? Because Destiny are doing games as a service right. And if they do this Assassin's Creed, they'll just start to bleed the fan base because the fan base doesn't want to do, constant Assassin's Creed. They want to be able to jump in, play the campaigns, bleed them for, a month and then move on to something else. That's why we play Assassin's Creed games, is because they're not our games as theirs. They're not everyone has enough time to mainline 6 drugs. We pick which our main drug is going to be and we mainline that. We don't have the time to go, I've got to spend 6 hours on this one, 6 hours on this one, 6 hours on this one, and 6 hours on this, just so I can keep playing it in 6 months.
That's no longer a hobby. That's a job.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was going to say, you're just turning it into a job. And I fully agree with you. Like, for me, I love the Assassin's Creed, but they are a contained experience. If you want to take time off, you come back, you pick up exactly where you left off. They always look good. The DLC generally is always pretty damn good as well. Like, I've enjoyed the DLC. I have played out of it. I don't buy a lot of the DLC, but when there's a deal, I'll buy a season pass because I like the Assassin's Creed game model.
Sorry.
As I say, this games as a service thing, it turns me off.
And in fairness, even the storefronts that they now have, I think it was probably started with Odyssey, but it was probably Origins. When you turned it on, all you got was this screen at the beginning full of adverts selling you stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like you're living in the world of cyberpunk. Quite frankly, it's advertising.
Because what's it called does it as well, doesn't it? The Ghost Recon does it as well. Exactly. Yeah. It tries to sell you stuff before you start the game.
But and at first, I was kind of like, oh my god, I really hate this. This is absolutely awful. Until I realised that I don't have to be involved in it. I don't have to. I don't have to take part. And there is the whole talking about, the Origins level gating, a bit of that with Odyssey. And I agree with that. You don't want to have people be able to buy stuff that gives them an advantage, and you don't have to play for like a long period of time because you can't beat the next area until you've done all the crap. They need to work on that and get that level right. But as far as like their store, I'm happy with that. They even do a good job on that. You can look in, and if you feel like you want to buy something bit of cosmetic for your character because you really enjoy the game and you want to throw away £5 on some spangly outfit,
flaming horse,
a flaming horse, it makes you think it's cool. That's your money to burn, and there's no problem with that. I don't have an issue with the way they do that. But if they're going to make that an integral part of the whole ecosystem, and then you're going to go into hub areas where there's lots of other, no, I'm not. I don't want that. I know what.
Yeah. So, Ubisoft, take note. We don't want it. Don't breakpoint Assassin's Creed. We don't need it. Just give us another fantastic 60-hour campaign that perhaps doesn't have quite as much bloat in the middle to get through the story. Now, Chris, you have a story for us about
talking about bloat.
Switch. What have they done? What have they done to it?
Well, the Switch got fatter essentially. No, it didn't. The Switch has had a minor change, and they've managed to squeeze a big fat OLED screen into it. So the much rumored Switch Pro turns out to be not a thing at all, and it's just the Switch OLED. There is basically, from what we understand at this point, bar a few physical hardware changes, as in they put made the stand better, and a few other bits and pieces on the bigger screen. This is a Switch. It's the same Switch that I have. I think Alan's got a Switch Lite, don't you, Alan? If memory serves.
Yeah. I think the OLED one, isn't this the Arthur Daly version?
But it's so they've improved the stand, which does look good actually. And I will say this because the stand on the Switch is garbage. What annoys me more though, and this is the bit I'm gonna have a rant here.
Go on, you go for it.
So they decided to put a lovely OLED screen in, so it'd be more visible in the daylight, and you'd be able to do this and the other. What they haven't decided to do is do anything about the absolute piece of crap Joy-Cons and the crappy analog
I knew he was going to go there.
I was about to ask that. Because I didn't read the article.
The dock. They added Ethernet to the dock because people have been saying that the Wi-Fi is a bit spotty on it. Cool, great. These are all things. But the single biggest complaint from every consumer who has a Switch is the analog sticks on the Joy-Cons are rubbish and they all break. Nintendo know this because they got the crap suit out of them because of it. And what did Nintendo do? They ignored it when they update the Switch. It's like, how insane are they? It's like, why? What? Having said that, OLED screen is lovely. It's just a Switch. I love my Switch, even for its faults. It's a brilliant system. It's just, I just wish they I'd be well happy with this whole thing if they'd have gone. We've got new Joy-Cons coming with the Switch OLED. They are, we've improved the analog sticks. We've listened to your feedback. We understand they're not good enough, and we're going to make it better. But no, Nintendo just fleece everyone again. So I would love a Switch OLED, but there's no way I would invest in it without a severe upgrade to the supporting hardware in terms of the Joy-Cons, because otherwise I'll just be spending hand over fist to buy more Joy-Cons, which is, and it's the reason that, to be honest with you, my Switch doesn't get more use is because the fact that I don't trust it not to break in like 5 minutes with the Joy-Cons. I like my Switch a lot. Like I said, time and time again, I think it's a great little console. I tend to play more retro stuff on it than I do the more modern stuff, truthfully, but I absolutely love it as a console. It is a brilliant piece of kit. And I'm pleased to see them sort of sticking by. And I'm also pleased to see that they didn't just whack a half-generation upgrade in, as weird as it sounds, and then alienate a ton of Switch users with new games. I do like Nintendo for that, and I will say props to them. They upgraded it in a way that kept everyone on a level playing field. However, it is also cheeky to stick this in a console which is already out of date and charge premium money for it still. That takes the mickey. So, Nintendo, two things. Yes, thank you very much for a better screen. It needed it. Secondly, sort your Joy-Cons out, you idiots. So there you go. But what do you guys think? I mean, I like it, but it's kind of I can't fully support it. You know what I mean?
You know my feelings on Nintendo. I'm not a fan, and I'm not surprised they've done this. Personally, I think they do brilliant games, and I've never played Nintendo games because I'll never buy their hardware because I just don't like their hardware. And I just wish they would port them to PC or to Xbox. I don't care. Port them somewhere that's got a better system that I can play them on, that doesn't have wobbly Joy-Cons, as it turns out, because that would knock me off as well. Because I'd be the one that ends up having to buy 3 sets or whatever they are, $64.99 or something ludicrous like that. I'd have to buy a Pro controller at like 70 odd quid just so that I didn't have to worry about that.
That's the more annoying thing, is the Pro controller is actually very, very, very good, and the analog sticks are superb on it. So
they clearly can make a good one. They're just choosing not to.
Exactly.
So from my perspective, don't care. For God's sake, Nintendo, just start porting your games. You'll still make loads of money, and you've got loads of money anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just move them onto other consoles. Let everybody share the love without having to play for your stupid Joy-Cons.
That's totally
sorry, my rant over.
It's not the same company that went over YouTube influencers and basically sued them or had them demonetified because they actually dared to show their product on YouTube. I mean, Nintendo would never do that. I mean, of course they'll listen to you and allow their IPs to be available on all other platforms. That's going to happen in a different reality.
And speaking of, unless you have any more points to add on the travesty that is this upgrade on the Switch.
I will say this. This just proves, just on this, this just proves that you shouldn't listen to everything on the internet, because literally everyone was reporting there was going to be an upgrade to this. It was going to be 4K. It was going to be this. It was going to be that. It was going to have all these things. Well, we did it on a basis of rumor, but like big, and we're a small podcast, but big. All the big agents saying, "Yep, all these people are saying this. This is what's going to happen." It's like, and in the back of my head, I was like, "I bet you any money it doesn't happen." I didn't believe it, because like Nintendo had no reason to. The Switch was still selling as fast as they could make them. Why would they change it? Why would they up their production costs and lower their margins when they can just continue to make bank money by pummeling out Switches? The OLED screen is unnecessary. They can probably just continue to pump out the old Switch, and people were clamoring over themselves.
Kind of answered your own question on why they don't sort out the joypads.
Yeah, I know, but they need to do that. That's something which needs to happen.
And yet people are still buying them.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, I bought one knowing they had poor Joy-Cons. I'm as guilty as anyone else, but it's something which at this point, having had the suits bad in, it's cost them so much money. You would have thought at some point someone in the Nintendo would go, "We should really just fix these guys. It would save us this much money. Why don't we just do this?"
It's funny as a segue, and I'm going to use this one and save you the bother, Phil. It's funny that you should mention in that last thing we were talking about, Chris, where we shouldn't believe everything we hear on the internet. Well, here's something that we heard on the internet, which apparently. Is it all right if I continue, Phil? Are you happy with that?
Go on, you can take my thunder, but my hatred of Nintendo, so I maybe won't deliver it with such vehement that you will. Please continue.
No. I was going to talk about the next news article because I felt it was a good time to segue.
Which you've now kind of made a mess of by
you ruined it by completely missing the mark. But I thought we were on the same page there, Phil. I've blown the whole mission, mate. I quit.
Anyway. So
Dead Space.
Dead Space. We're doing Dead Space, are we?
Let's talk about that other one. Thunderlips. Yeah. Go on, hit it.
Dead Space remake. Apparently, there's a rumor out there. Yeah, no official announcement.
Oh, we missed. I thought we were doing something else. You were going to segue into something else. I thought Phil was earlier as well.
I was planning to. Yeah.
Yeah, you
confused me now.
Yeah, you confused me there, Alan. There was another article you've missed.
You know what? I'll tell you what. Let's continue the hatred of Nintendo for a moment, if we may, Alan.
Let's get it out of the way.
There is yet further news on the remake of Skyward Sword HD coming to the Switch.
Oh, really?
They have done a Sony. Because Sony did it first. That's the only reason I'm saying that. So they have introduced a paywall for certain features in the remake of Skyward Sword. So for the sum of $60, I believe, you can buy the remake. And then for another $25, you can buy a little amiibo figure. For people like me who didn't know, it's a little figure of a monster in the game. It's a piece of tech that basically has NFC in it. You put it near your Switch, Switch picks it up, and it unlocks fast travel in the game. So people who buy the game for $60, a $50 game, originally when it came out 10 years ago, you now pay $60 for, and they've just vajazzled it, for lack of a better phrase. It's just HD textures. Nothing else really going on there.
Vajazzled it.
Yep. Pay $60. And then if you want to fast travel in that game, you have to pay another $25 to buy a little statue to put next to your Switch.
To be fair, it's not. They've not entirely locked fast travel behind the amiibo. There is a fast travel system in the game. What they've done is they've improved the fast travel system, so you can fast travel from anywhere in the game, and that's locked behind the amiibo. So you can't fast travel from anywhere unless you've got the amiibo. So the major quality of life improvement to the game is the fast travel from anywhere, and to do that, you have to buy the amiibo.
For $25.
I'm having Bethesda flashbacks here for Fallout 76.
But here's the other thing:
pay for the personal servers.
I'm going to pay £100 a year subscription so I can build a freaking camp.
Yeah. So, and here's the other thing about this:
my items.
So you say that, and that's bad, Alan. But that's a digital purchase, so that will, in theory, just be a case of forever. You'll be able to buy it forever and ever and ever. Okay. This is a physical unit, and when Nintendo stop making these, or they all get destroyed, there'll be no way to access this feature which they've locked behind the thing, unless Nintendo suddenly become good guys and go, "Oh, we've unlocked it now," which they won't.
And then how would you feel about buying the statue to then get it unlocked? Or
apparently they're already
sold
out. They're completely sold out. You can't even buy one. The scalper's got them all, so you can't even buy them. You can't even purchase one, and there's no even talk about them making more. There's going to be such a small amount that they're going to make. The chances of you actually being able to get hold of one are slim to none at all.
Do you know what really takes them, Mick Allen?
Yeah,
on Fleabay, they're going for more than the game.
That's mental, isn't it?
God.
And Nintendo fanboys will buy them. That's the thing.
Amiibos are lovely figures. They are lovely figures, but seriously, like Nintendo, this is one of the worst examples of all this was in. And I know we've got a Sony example as well to talk about. This is terrible because they've taken a feature of a game, the only major quality of life improvement they've made to the game, apparently, in terms of gameplay.
In case you're wondering what the game looked like,
they've decided to take that and then block that off unless you buy this thing. It's not, and the worst thing about this is they'll use it as we try to help sell more amiibos. Nintendo don't need help selling amiibos, like to a fan favorite. Like if they put an amiibo out, they'll sell loads of them, And this is just a terrible example of a company fleecing their fans and not giving a hoot. This is really bad, and I'm really. The worst thing about this for me is about 3 days before this in our chat, we've been talking about like game companies being, or their dick moves, and I said Nintendo are usually pretty good by the customer. They make a couple of bad choices, and then they drop this, and it's like, wow, you couldn't have proved me anymore, wrong, could you, Nintendo? Like Jesus, like just talk about screwing your fan base. It's just awful. I genuinely hate them for this. It is awful. Like again, if I was interested in this, which I'm not, I would never have bought this remaster purely on principle. Now, if I had a pre-order, I'd have cancelled it. I'd have been, nope, you're not getting my money, Nintendo. Stick it. And the only other thing I would say is just an FYI, if you happen to have access to an Android phone, you can just program NFC tags to replicate Amiibo's functions. Just FYI. Not that I'm encouraging you not to buy overpriced amiibos from Nintendo to get function like this, but you can do it with an NFC phone. Just boop, there you go. It's now an amiibo. Just an FYI there, people.
And for those of you that don't have an Android phone, it's $25 for a statue or $100+ for an Android phone or tablet.
To be fair, mate, you go on eBay, you pick up an old Android phone for about 17 quid that'll do it, I'd imagine.
Save yourself the difference. Speaking of the... sorry, did you want to add anything to that one, Alan, before I move on to the second travesty of paywall blockage?
The only thing I will add to this is that I could not care less about this game before this. I care less about it now. After this, so that's an improvement.
So speaking of horrendous paywalls, Sony coined the phrase, and they've done it again with Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut.
Oops, I did it again.
Oh God! So you can buy the new DLC. It's going to cost you about 20 quid, and let's be honest, it gives you a whole new island. There's new stuff to find. There's new gameplay, a whole new story arc. It's going to be amazing. If you have a PlayStation 5, there are PlayStation 5 features, as they're advertising here. Dynamic resolution up to 4K, haptic feedback, adaptive triggers. But you've got to pay an extra £9 for the privilege of getting the PS5 updates. So I've just spent £450 on a PS5 console. I bought Ghost of Tsushima because it's a brilliant game and I love it. They gave me a free taster of the 60 FPS on it with my PS5. But to get the rest of the package, I've got to pay another 9 quid. Dirty, dirty play. What the fudge, Sony?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to quickly add this. I don't have a PlayStation. I've not got the time or the money to invest in one right now. I will be honest and say that if I did pick one up, one of my main reasons would be I wanted to play Ghost of Tsushima. Like, there were 2 or 3 games from the last generation which I felt like were games I missed out on, and Ghost is one of them. Ghosts and God of War were 2 of the main ones.
Such a good game.
And if I'd have bought a PS5 and then bought Ghosts, and then they dropped this nonsense, I'd have sold my PS5 on principle. I'd have been like, jog on. I'd have bought your DLC, but I'm not then paying another 9 quid just because I wanted the premium experience you've just set me out to deliver. Why should I pay more? It's just utterly ridiculous. This is the way that they're them adding on the other, because they've gone $60 for a PlayStation 4 game, $70 for a PlayStation 5 game. They're now just going, well, you've played for the PlayStation 4, but here's the extra $10 which you couldn't get you because you've already bought it. It's finding disgusting, is what this is.
Yeah, it's anti-consumer is what it is. It shows these companies for what they are. Yeah, it really, really does. There's this kind of backhanded tactics to fleece their customers for more money. And I think it kind of shows how good the Microsoft Xbox ecosystem
smart delivery is,
and how much it's more inclined to make things better for their consumers, rather than Nintendo and Sony showing that every turn they're more interested in making a quick buck off them, and they're in no way interested in help, sort of making
quality
a community. Quality of life improvement.
Here's the thing.
They're not interested.
It's not even just Ghost of Tsushima. So they recently released that there's going to be an update to Death Stranding as well. There's some new DLC coming from that. It's going to cost you £10 for the DLC. And there's going to be PS5 upgrades in there, haptic feedback, better features, adaptive triggers again. Now, it's not as bad as Ghost of Tsushima because you buy the £10 for the DLC and you get the PS5 features. But if you just have the original game and a PS5, you don't get the upgrade. So you're still effectively, they're still squeezing that extra £10 out of you to play, to use the most of your PS5. It's never ending.
You guys talked about Doom last week. I obviously wasn't here. Doom Eternal being like obviously the disaster of the Doom Eternal DLC upgrade on the PS5.
the save file migration.
Yeah. Well, this is the other thing. Is one of the features they list as a feature in the Ghost of Tsushima one is PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 sale phone. It's like, how is that a feature you're making people pay for? What the actual, I mean, maybe it's just because we live in Microsoft's bubble with the Xbox and not to go all Apple, but it just works, right? We just get the content is delivered to our console and it works, Doom Eternal it was there, whatever it is. It's like, Jedi Fallen Order. I started playing that again today, just very briefly before the pod. I was like, I'm going to give it another go. And I loaded it up and it already updated Series X. I didn't have to do anything else. There was no, it was just there because Smart Delivery downloaded it and installed it to my machine. And you just look at it and go, it does get to this point where you just kind of scratch your head going, but
they just keep doing it. So, you know what? they had to put a bit of development time into making sure the game save goes from PS4 to PS5. They had to create a little tool like they did for Final Fantasy Remake. So they thought,
but why is this a thing? Why isn't this native? Why isn't this native? Why isn't it like Microsoft does?
It's one of the things that kind of gets to me is that I kind of think like I don't necessarily begrudge the game developer wanting to charge more for an upgrade, because clearly there is work and effort behind that. It doesn't just happen magically. Okay, they have to put man hours in to upgrading their product. So if they want to charge me more money for an upgrade, I have no problem with that. I think what the issue is how underhanded the tactics of Nintendo and Sony is to make that extra money and not be clear on it. And what makes it worse is that repeatedly Microsoft and their developers have shown that they're willing to just say, there you go, have it for free, which is just consumer friendly. But I don't necessarily sit here and think, how dare you charge me more money for spending hours and time upgrading your game to a new system to make it look better. But I'm very grateful that we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And when it's underhanded, that smarts even more.
You see, I think that is dependent on the game. So Ghost of Tsushima, potentially I can forgive that because that is a PS5 exclusive. Death Stranding, however, is available on the PC. So all of that work for the 4K textures and the upgrades and the better frame rates, they've already done the work to sell it on the PC. Mm-hmm. So all they're doing is moving that work over to the PS5 and they're going to charge us for it for work they've already done.
What annoys me more,
that's where I don't like it.
Is what annoys me more, especially with Sony's take on it, is these are your first party titles. These are the things that you should be, throwing at people to celebrate your console, not to penalize them for having bought it. It just feels to me like Sony know that they've got people over a barrel here and can just and what annoys me more is people defending themselves getting screwed over because they're so deeply entrenched. Like we've done it before, and we've called Microsoft out on BS before, and they've done it. And I've often said, I remember the Xbox One launch when I was watching that presentation, and they just kept going TV, and I just remember sitting going on Twitter and just tweeting out, "All right, I get it. I can watch TV on my Xbox, but for the love of God, someone play a game on the games console."
Yeah.
I wasn't going to deny the fact that they were dropping the ball all over the shop and that what they were showing was pretty poor. I was fully aware, but I had you have to call Microsoft on that and say, and the fans did, right? They told Microsoft that everything you're doing here is not what we want, it's wrong, and it led to change. If Sony fans keep just putting their hands in their pockets and buying these upgrades, Sony will just keep doing it and they'll just keep fleecing you. You need to go, well, Microsoft doing this thing, why aren't you doing it? You're supposed to be our Microsoft, why aren't you doing this? And they need to hold their feet to the flames on it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If it was an indie developer, again, Alan, if it's a small developer, needed had put the time and the effort in to make that upgrade, I would be all for it. If they want to charge me for an upgrade, it does work so differently. When it's a Sony-owned developer, and I've just forked out for their big expensive console, I shouldn't have to, double dip. They shouldn't double dip me.
I should get some privileges for paying out for the console. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, sliding back over to what Alan was going to talk about a little bit earlier, Thunderlips. Give me the news from EA because I am excited. I genuinely am excited for what this means.
Good news.
First of all, but I say good news. I mean, none of this is confirmed, and we've seen these rumors flying around for quite some time that apparently Dead Space is being remade.
Please come on, I love this franchise.
Yeah, I love this franchise, and I love the original. The thing is that EA and apparently it's what's the name of the developer?
Motive.
Thank you. Yeah, Motive, the developer that are actually working on this. They were part of the team that also helped them co-develop Star Wars Battlefront 2. And they're apparently working on this reboot, and it's a fully fledged remake of the first Dead Space game. And they're kind of both the approach from EA and from Motive, from what the sources are saying, is very much entrenched in what they did with Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes. Basically, they're taking their cues from Capcom and looking at that original game and saying, okay, we want to take the foundation of that game, but we're going to fundamentally change it and upgrade it so that graphically it's not just going to be an overhaul of the graphic system, it's going to be an overhaul of the game system and everything else. This is bearing in mind that the original Dead Space was a revolutionary game in some respects. I mean, for the first thing, it didn't have a HUD. There was no HUD. This was almost
that health meter was so cool.
Yeah, down the back of your spine. Genius.
I remember seeing it before it came out and seeing the screenshots and going, "Wow, this looks really freaking cool, man!" You know, it's just like they were pushing the boundaries of what games were doing and trying to make it unique and different. And they didn't just have like no hub, so you had all your stuff either on your gun or on your on your suit. It's like everything in game was actually in game. So when you pick stuff up, you didn't get a screen that popped up. It was in a holographic thing that you could actually pan around and you could read. It was fantastic. You didn't have a marker on a map. You had what we lovingly referred to as sac nav, which was essentially where Isaac Clarke thrust his hips forward and this line snakes out in the game to tell you which direction, so you were never lost. Yeah, but all of this didn't take away from the immersion that you felt in this awesome, fantastic world. I loved this game and I played it all the way through. Yeah. And hearing that they're going to remake it kind of half fills me with excitement and half fills me with trepidation, because I kind of think how sometimes it's like when they remake classic films, and they say, yeah, we can do better than the original. And then you watch it and you think, no, they didn't, because you can't remake a classic. And for me, Dead Space is a classic. So can you remake a classic whilst keeping all those fundamental feelings that Dead Space had? I don't know, and I will hold my breath, because I really do think what Capcom did with Resident Evil 2, and I've not played 3, but what they did with Resident Evil 2 was fantastic. They kept this. For me, I never really played this first one, so I can't make an apples to apples comparison. But I felt that this was Resident Evil. It felt like Resident Evil, but it was so modern, and it felt modern while still having elements that were from the original one, like save points. And
I think that was the thing with Resident Evil. They had a modern sort of goal, sort of yardstick, didn't they? Because Resident Evil's continued on, so all they did was really take all their learnings from modern Resident Evil and reapply it to Resident Evil 2. Whereas Dead Space is in that kind of weird limbo where we haven't had a Dead Space game since Dead Space 3. And as such, there's like nothing much to inform, what that game should look like, if that makes sense. I mean, there are modern takes on the series, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, like you said, Dead Space was revolutionary. I remember I only ever played the first one, your hands up. And we've often talked about this. I never got scared in the first one, but my God, that atmosphere in that game and the weapon design, and
it's like walking into a room. You just you had this hesitation because you knew the minute you walked in that room, there was xenomorphs going to be popping up, and you were just like on edge. Yeah.
I just absolutely loved the design of it. Like you said, the way they did the health meter, everything was just it just felt so fresh and so interesting. And it was and it was an example of a game where I thought, if this is where games are going, then, oh my God, I'm all in. And games have never really lived up to anything like Dead Space, in my opinion.
They haven't.
We've sort of regressed a bit from it, almost.
Agreed.
I think
it's a shame.
Yeah, if you look at Dead Space 1, it's such a great game, brilliant design. The thing is, if you go back and try and play it now, it's really difficult to play. And it's not because it's a hard game, it's because the controls are sluggish and they're not very precise.
But that was always the way, though, wasn't it? It was supposed to be like you were just a dude with a plasma cutter. It wasn't ever supposed to be.
I don't want to run around like a Doom Marine. The whole point is that you chug along, boom, step after step, and he's in a big suit and he's in a
I get what you're saying. Yeah, but there's probably modern ways to make that feel better, but
there is. What I'm saying is, though, as you moved into Dead Space 2, obviously there was that progression in terms of his experience with the necromorphs, but Dead Space 2 plays fundamentally so much better than Dead Space 1. You had more weapons available, obviously, because they wanted to add more to the game, but they kept all the great things, like, they kept the rig system on your back and they added in upgrades to that, and they added in different suits that added more kind of inventory slots and things. You basically have more pockets. But you go from 1 to 2, and 2 is a joy to play versus 1. You go from 2 to 3 and they up the ante again. Part of the reason with 3 is they moved almost from a survival horror to an action horror. And a lot of people didn't like that. But
it wasn't as well received.
For me, Dead Space 3, they did some really brilliant things. Like, instead of you having like 4 guns in 2, you had 2, but they had a different attachment, top and bottom, which gave you this huge range of customization on the weapons and then mods on there. And they did some really cool stuff where they added the multiplayer. Now, initially, like the 2-player co-op, it just made the game a bit easier, but they did some really cool side DLC where one of the co-op players would see something that the other player wouldn't, and you'd literally be stood there getting attacked by something and going nuts and shit, and the other person standing there going, what are you shooting at? I can't see anything. And then you'd suddenly get, why am I getting hurt? I can't see anything. And they did some fantastic stuff that, and they never really expanded on that aspect of.
Well, they got canned, didn't they?
They did, they got canned,
It was,
the worst thing is
it was what was it? What's the name of the Visceral Games? Which
Games,
that is one of EA's greatest sins.
Yeah, they should have never done that.
They actually, because they originally was at EA Redwood Studios, I think Redwood Shores, that was it, and then they rebranded as Visceral, and then they just basically canned them. And I know that EA's sort of like their kind of take these days has been very much what we've been talking about, online service games, and I think they feel safer in that environment, especially with things like Battlefront 2, where they didn't make as much money at the beginning, but they can keep on plugging away at it, and eventually they make back their revenue. Whereas with a single player game, that's harder to do. But I think they did see sort of like a big change when Jedi Fallen Order came out, and they kind of, I think that woke them up a little bit to kind of understand that there is still a big place in the gaming market for single player experiences. Totally. And I think that's what kind of made them reconsider the going back to Dead Space as an IP. But as I say, this is just rumor mill. This is just,
please let it be true. I'm in for a Dead Space game.
I'll be honest, I'd love for them to make the Dead Space 4, because obviously you guys haven't played Dead Space 3, but they did a fantastic piece of DLC called The Awakening. Basically, a lot of people said, obviously, Dead Space 3 was too action shootery. We want more Dead Space 1. So this DLC focused on bringing that pants loosening terror that you felt in the first game. And it was absolutely, it was one of the most stressful experiences. Like it was like Doom, the current version of Doom, but in Dead Space. It was so hard, so brilliantly done. And they left that on, again, an absolute humdinger of a cliffhanger, ready for Dead Space 4. And then they got canned. And it breaks my heart that I will never see Dead Space 4.
So we're going to have to tune in for the EA Play event, which is on July the 22nd. And you never know, there might be an unveiling at that time.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I definitely, I'll be up for playing Dead Space again. In fact, I might even see if it's. I wonder if it's on my PC on the EA Play. I wonder if it is. I might.
It's in the EA Access, so you've got it on Xbox and you've got it on PC because you
have to dig that out then and have a play.
It's all rolled in, all 3 games.
One of the few games I've actually got all the achievements for.
Oh, okay. The only achievement I'm very proud of in the original Dead Space was there was an achievement which I went for on my very first run, which was the one gun. You just did the whole thing with the plasma cutter. And you know, it was hard, but I loved every minute of that run because that plasma cutter is so cool. Chopping up the necromorphs.
It was one of those first games.
Taking the arms off.
It was one of the first games where you could actually specifically target a part of your enemy and actually literally dissect them as they were coming towards you. Nothing before that. You dissect their legs and they're crawling along the ground. But it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing.
I used to love that. I think it was Dead Space 2. One of the weapons would basically freeze the enemy. Oh no, you could use your pack to freeze it, and you could literally freeze one of them big brutes, and you could take it apart piece by piece, like blow the left arm, blow the right arm, take the legs off, take the other leg off. It was just this mushy puddle on the floor, and be like, "That's what you get. That's what you get." And then it would regen and chase after you, be like, "Ah!" Yeah, run into the train.
Who gave Phil a cider? That's what you get. That's what you get. Oh, do you?
Right, that is the end of the news, and I've enjoyed the news. I'm so excited for potential Dead Space remake. Please let it happen. But Mr. Ratley Ratster has prepared a quiz for me, Alan.
So I thought, when we started doing the quiz, I was like, what can I do? And I was like, you know what, this worked really well last time we did it. Well, I thought it did. I had a lot of fun with it, and I think you guys did. So I thought I'd rehash the who said that, who the Phil said that quiz, which was if you guys remember this, which is where I'll give you a famous movie quote, and what I'm looking for from you guys is for you to tell me the actor who said it, the character name, and the film it's from.
Okay.
So we need a buzzer from each of you to get in. So Phil, can I have a quick buzzer? It does just it can be. You can just say Phil or is Phil frozen?
Yeah, hang on a sec. I'll tell you what that'll be.
Is your phone being?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, he's come back.
Cancel.
There he is. He's back. There he is. So yeah, right. Phil, give us a buzzer.
Sausage. I normally remember sausage.
Yeah, sausage is
that right?
Yeah, you're good. You're good, mate. You're good. Thunder Lips. I need a buzzer, please, sir. Batman. Okay, cool. Right. So yeah, there are 10 questions. And so I'm just going to give you a quote. Then what I need from you guys is I need the actor. Well, you can give me any order, but it's the character who said it, the actor who's playing that character, and the film it's from. Make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Let's give it a go.
So here we go. Question number 1. And the quote is, no. I kill the bus driver.
Batman.
Thunderlips McQueen.
Heath Ledger. The Joker. Oh, which one is it? I can't remember the name of which film it is. It's the second one. Dark Knight Rises.
No, you got 2 out of 3. I'll give you 2, and I'm going to throw it across to Phil if you can get the last one.
Oh no!
The name of the film, mate.
I thought it was Batman. I thought it was Batman Rises as well, or Dark Knight Rises as well.
Okay, so no points there. It's the Dark Knight.
It's just the Dark Knight.
I can't give you the Dark Knight Rises because obviously they're 2 separate movies. So sorry, right? So second quote. Here we go, guys. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Batman.
Thunderlips again.
Okay, it's Jaws.
It is indeed.
It's Roy Schneider.
It is indeed.
And I can't remember the name of the character, but he's the sheriff.
I'll be honest. I was like, oh, it's this character. And I checked it up before I went, no, that's not his character. That's somebody else's character. So, Phil, can you tell? I'll be impressed if you get this, to be fair, mate.
No,
okay. I would have even given you
the year after that film. So
yeah, but that's no excuse. It's a genius film, and I'm terrified of sharks, and I think it's a genius film. So yeah, that was Martin Brody was the character name. So Brody would have been fine. So I'm going to do this one with a bit of performance as well, guys. This next one, so this is number 3, and I fully expect both of you to know this in full, and I'll be disappointed if you don't. The full quote is: "Run, go, get to the chopper."
Batman.
Alan.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
It's Predator.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the character. Dutch.
Did Phil say Dutch?
No, Alan said it.
Alan said it.
He was ahead of me. I would have jumped in, but Alan said it.
Okay,
so.
fair enough. Cool. Now, this next one. Okay, I'm expecting quick reactions from people here. Okay, so there you go. The quote is, "I feel the need for speed."
Batman.
Sausage.
Oh, come on, Phil. You should have been like halfway through the quote. You should have been on that one. I'm disappointed. Go on, Batman or Alan.
Tom Cruise. Top Gun. Not Space Top Gun, Phil. I'm sorry. Top Gun. And I can't remember. Maverick.
Okay. I'll give you Maverick. Yeah. Okay. So, there is bonus points on this one up for grabs. Okay. Bonus points are if you can give me who joins in midway through as a character and actor, and if you can give me Maverick's full name.
I know it was Goose who joins in, but I don't know the guy's name. I don't know the actor that did it. Sorry.
No clue. No.
Really? Yeah. And do you know Maverick's full name?
No.
Anyone?
I can't remember that either.
Ew, I'm disappointed on that one. It's Captain Pete Mitchell, and the actor's name is Anthony Edwards.
Of course it is. Anthony Edwards from ER fame. Yeah.
There you go. Well, from Top Gun fame, he then starred in ER, Okay, so the next one, number 5. None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. Alan.
Rorschach, Watchman, and I don't know the name of the actor.
I would have been very impressed if you just reeled that off, I'll be honest. If Phil can do it, I'll be really impressed.
No.
That was Jackie Earl Haley.
Right. Fantastic. I mean, he does Rorschach awesome. I love that movie. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. I would have also given you, if you could have given me his. I'll give a bonus point if anyone could tell me Rorschach's actual name.
Yeah, no, I can't. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Walter Kovacs, just as an FYI.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is one of my favourite quotes from a movie I love, which I don't think gets enough love, which is, "I'm your Huckleberry." And if you don't know this, I'll be so upset because it's so great. "I'm your Huckleberry." Oh, dude. Oh, you disappoint me. How can you not know this?
Sorry.
Let me down here. So both of you happy you don't know this one?
Don't know it.
Yeah,
I'm sure if you
know.
say it, I kind of vaguely know the quote, and I'm sure when you say it, I'll go, "Oh,
no clue."
I can't
So the film is Tombstone. The actor is Val Kilmer, and it's Doc Holliday as the character.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, Phil, I would thoroughly recommend you watch it just for.
I have to watch it now because I haven't seen that.
Just for "I'm your Huckleberry."
And just for the record, Phil, you're my Huckleberry.
Oh.
Hooray!
So this one is question number 7. Now that's what I call a close encounter.
I'm not doing very well this evening. Sorry, boys.
I'm having a brain fart. I know the quote, but I can't remember it.
So now that's what I call a close encounter.
Yeah,
you got to imagine it's said in a very cocky American accent.
Sorry, I don't know this one.
Seriously,
actually,
hold on.
Let me give this a shot in the dark. Okay, Batman, Will Smith, yeah, and it's 4th Independence Day.
Okay,
and I can't remember the name of the character.
So I would have been. You are correct in what you say. If I'll leave the character name in case Phil can tell me Will Smith's character name in Independence Day. I'll be honest with you, I'd have been absolutely stunned if one of you could have just dropped the Captain Stephen Hiller into that, because I was like, "Oh, that's his name." Okay.
You say that, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know the name." But it's
you say it, that makes sense. But up until then, I was just like,
"No." I mean, so yeah, it was indeed Will Smith in Independence Day. There you go. Okay, so this one, the quote is: "This is number 8. Assimilate this."
Sausage.
Batman.
Go,
Phil. Go, Phil.
Well, I'm assuming it's Star Trek.
Okay, there's
one. Which one?
It's a film, isn't it? So is it First Contact?
It is, Phil. Yes.
And is it Data?
No.
I'll
do that.
It's not Data. That might have thrown me out. Maybe. Was it Riker then?
At that point, I'm going to stop you and say no, Phil.
Okay, I don't know then.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to see if Thunderlips McQueen can give us an answer.
Is it Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart?
It is not Captain Jean-Luc Picard, played by Captain Stewart.
I knew it wasn't Picard.
It is the mighty Lieutenant Worf, played by Michael Dorn.
Oh,
nice.
It's where they have the Borga they've detached the deflector from the ship and it's floating away, and Worf just says, "Assimilate this," as he blows them away. Because Worf.
I met him at a Comic-Con about 4 years ago. Cool dude.
Yeah, I can well imagine he's a really cool dude. To be fair, one of my favorite quotes ever from movies next. So I really hope like someone's going to get this. I'll be very disappointed if this doesn't go well. "All those moments will be lost like tears in rain."
Batman.
Thunderlips.
Rutger Hauer. Blade Runner. I'm terrible with character names today. I've had a long day. I'm tired. Sorry. Normally I'm good on the character names, but I'm done.
You're spot on with that. Phil, can you give us the character name? It's a really lot of not odd, but it's a character name. You just kind of go, "That's his name?"
Yeah.
no, sorry, man.
So that is Roy Batty for the character. Yeah. So our final question is a long one. And again, I only put this in there as a bit of self-indulgence because it's a phenomenally good quote from a phenomenally good film, which is, again, quite under. If you haven't seen this, then again, shame on you boys. So the quote is this: "A man can be an artist in anything, food, whatever. It depends on how good he is at it. Creasy's art is death. He's about to paint his masterpiece." It has to be said in like a, I can't do a very good impression of the man, but the most unique voice in Hollywood, I would say.
What, Benicio del Toro? No. What's his name? Plays the Collector in Marvel.
No.
Got a fantastic accent. But
it's not him, no. So it's the way he speaks that's so unique. It's his cadence that's, not quite normal.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No. So the actor in question is the inimitable Christopher Walken.
Of course.
The character is Paul Rayburn, which I would have been stunned if anyone would have got. And the film is the mighty and incredible Man on Fire.
Not seen it.
Have you seen it, Phil? Guys, I tell you what, if you ever want a revenge flick, which will leave you like it just, I cannot say enough good things about Man on Fire. Denzel Washington is just, it's Denzel Washington in it, which means he's boss. Christopher Walken's in it. Honestly, like, if you've never seen it, that film, oh my God, watch Man on Fire. You will not be disappointed. I promise you, Man on Fire will leave you like, it's such a phenomenally good film.
Duly noted.
Phenomenally good film. And massively underrated.
Thank you for that, Chris. That was really good.
Well, I will.
I did.
You can have the scores if you want them. You can have the scores if you want them. I'm not sure Phil particularly wants to hear them.
I don't think it's necessary.
Should we just say Alan won and just call it at that?
Come on. Can we just crush my ego a little bit?
Okay, so
win.
So Phil, you scored 2 points, mate. Well done.
What? How did we get 2?
You scored 2 points. So you got Goose for an extra point as who that was.
Oh.
And you got I'm trying to think now.
First Contact.
Is it First Contact? Yeah, First Contact. There you go.
Yeah.
And Alan, you scored 16. Well done, mate.
So I'm just lucky that I've caught Phil on a night where he's exhausted from a hard week's work and he's rushed home. Otherwise, I would have been trounced once again. So
I believe that I can't believe you beat him on the Top Gun quote. I deliberately put a Top Gun quote in just for Phil, and you beat him on it. And I was like, how did that happen?
My brain is just not functioning.
You know what?
I'm just going to cheat next week and Google the answers. Nah. It's a hollow victory. Is no point. Well, on that devastating loss on my part, that is the end of this week's podcast. Thank you very much, Thunderlips, and say goodbye, please.
Goodbye, please.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. Say goodbye, please.
Goodbye, please.
And a goodbye, please, from me as well. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.